All right, so we are through the first quarter. We're in the middle of May, really making some headway on the year, which, at the beginning of the year, we were anxiously anticipating what was to come, trying to figure out where this was all leading with limited inventory, rates still at all-time lows. What was the future? What did it look like? So we've got some history now that we can reflect on. I think we're still all wondering what the path forward looks like, how long this run can go. But there's some interesting things at play. So I want to talk about that for a minute. Something I've been getting a lot of traction on social media was on a national realtor page, and the agent essentially posted on there, "Hey, would it be appropriate for me to request an appraisal on a transaction that closed significantly above anything else in the marketplace?" So we've had situations like this where the highest sale is 400, and then you get a $500,000 sale. So I know this is something that makes people very concerned and feel like, hey, this market is unsustainable and it's unsubstantiated. What I want to talk about, though, is some of the reasons why that might be a legitimate number for a house to land on. Now, I don't have the details of her specific situation, but we deal with this all the time. And in Florida, this is a perfect scenario when we talk about maybe the value of a pool. An appraiser on a house in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, even more, is going to value a pool at approximately $15,000. It's just kind of one of those numbers they use. Where did it come from? Who knows? But it's been the appraisal industry has said this is the number we're going to use. And so there's ways to get to that number that would be legitimate. But so the idea would be there's a $400,000 house in a neighborhood that's sold without a pool, right? We know if you want to go do a pool, maybe we do want to do a really nice pool, we could spend $60,000 to $75,000 on a nice pool that's done on the, with all the build out and pavers and summer kitchen and all these things, right? So the idea that the appraisal process would dictate that the appropriate appraisal price would be $415,000, right? Because we have the same house plus a pool, and they're giving $15,000, would be a far stretch from what you as a buyer may be willing to pay for that versus buying a house for $400,000 and putting in $75,000 of cash for that pool, right? Not only is it the cash out of pocket, it's the time, effort, and challenges of dealing with a project like that, and dealing with getting bids and being there for all the work, right? There's a lot of stress that goes along with that. So the idea that somebody might say, hey, I'll pay $475 or even make a stretch and be at closer to $500. Yes, there is a delta between the appraised value in this situation and the finished product of what you might be willing to pay. But is that legitimate, right? And there's plenty of things that we can look at that would say, hey, this is a legitimate thing to pay for over and above appraised value. And so you got to make sure you start to really understand all of those moving parts so that you can make the right decision. And so it's interesting that a lot of people, even in the industry, can't put those components together to say, hey, this is a legitimate price. And appraiser, their only job is to give the bank an opinion of value, right? It's not the end-all be-all by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're not able to be forward-thinking, this market is not the market for you. Rates are still incredibly low, making affordability in line, I think, with even markets of the past where prices were lower but rates were significantly higher. And so the other thing I want to just kind of reflect on here for a minute, which I think is incredibly interesting, is the idea that we are seeing people from major cities relocate here into our suburbs, enrolling in our schools. We're seeing it from New York. We're seeing it from Chicago. We're seeing it from Philadelphia. We're seeing it from all over California. And the idea that they are coming here and competing, they are seeing things at a different level. There's a funny meme that was going around talking about the idea that, hey, guy from California, they're selling an apple, and he says, that's the cheapest apple I've ever seen. I'll pay any price for it, right? And they're doing that to some extent with our home values here. They are seeing, hey, what we can buy in your marketplace is worth it, for us. I'm coming from an 800 square foot studio, and I can come here and buy 5 acres with a barn, for less than that price. So the idea of them coming in, it's almost like they're coming in with a different currency. But I just want to beg the question that the virtual work environment is allowing for this to happen, right? And I think this has been something that has been a long time coming, where people that are living, making a great living, have the ability to go work somewhere where they want to live and still keep the job that they had, right? So what we're seeing is, my theory, is a slight redistribution of equity across the country in real estate values, right? So we're going to start to sell off what we have in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And I think those will always still be, hubs and desirable areas for some people for a lot of reasons. But when you can say, hey, I can go choose where I want to live, and I can pay what I need to pay to get what I want. That's what we're seeing in this market right now. It's the first time people have had that real ability to go work virtually in great numbers and choose where they want to live. So I guess that only leads us to believe that maybe we didn't know it, but we've been a deal for a long time, right? We only compared us to what we knew. We only compared to what we were used to seeing paid for certain properties, not compared to what everyone else thought it was worth to live here. And so I think obviously that's it's putting burdens on people that live locally that are looking to relocate locally. But it also gives us the idea that this may not be a short-term bubble by any stretch of the imagination. I actually would argue for many other reasons that it's not, and would love to have that conversation with anybody who would like to have it. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this market, a lot of things to wrap our heads around and truly understand. But you need somebody in your corner. Would love to be a part of that conversation with you if I can in any way. So don't hesitate and reach out. Talk soon.